This Drake Law Library video will demonstrate how to mark cites in your brief for your table of authorities. You can see the step-by-step instructions at the URL listed on the bottom of the screen, our brief formatting libguide. The video demonstrates the technical process of marking table of authorities entries. Be sure to follow all assignment instructions regarding content and formatting. You want to make sure you've completely written your brief before you mark citations for the table of authorities. I'm going to place my cursor at the beginning of the argument section. I'll pick up the earlier sections of the brief at the end of the marking process. To get started marking citations, I go to the References tab, and then I click the Mark Citation button in the Table of Authorities area. This opens the Mark Citation dialog box. The way this box looks depends a bit on your operating system and what version of Word you're using. I'm using Word for Microsoft 365 on a PC. On a Mac, the biggest difference is that the buttons will appear at the bottom of the dialog box instead of off to the side. In the Mark Citation dialog box, I'm going to use the Next Citation button to help locate possible citations. When I click this, Word looks for characters that it associates with legal citations, like a V, period, the section symbol, or id, and then highlights these so that I can look to see if that is in fact a citation that I want to mark. I click on Next Citation, and the first thing that Word highlights is the V in Coles v. Cleveland Board of Education. This is a case that I want in my table of authorities, so I'm going to select the entire case, and then I'm going to click into the selected text box. That copies the text into this box, and this is what is actually going to appear in the table of authorities, so I need to edit it appropriately, and that means I need to get rid of this pin cite. The next thing I want to do is check my category. Cases is what I want, but I could use the drop down if I needed to select something else. And again, these are the categories that we set earlier in the prior video. Then I'm going to edit my short citation box. The information put in this box does not actually appear in the table of authorities. Instead, it serves two purposes. First, it helps Word identify subsequent citations to an authority. Second, it helps me mark subsequent citations that use id. Therefore, I want something distinctive that will include at least part of what I'll use as the short citation form in the brief. For a case, that's going to be the first party name or the distinctive party name followed by a comma, the number of the reporter, the abbreviation for the reporter series if there is one, and then the word at. For the short citation listed in this box, don't worry about formatting like underlining or italics. The long citation box will pull from the selected text box, so I don't need to worry about directly inputting anything into this box. However, before I click Mark or Mark All, this is a good opportunity to review that what I have in the selected text box, the category, and the short citation box are all the way I want them to be. If I click Mark, Word is only going to mark the single authority that I have listed. If I click Mark All, Word will mark this authority, and then it will also use the short citation information and mark anything that matches identically later in the brief. I'm going to go ahead and click Mark All. I've moved the Mark Citation box out of the way so we can take a look at the coding that Microsoft Word just inserted. If I didn't already have Show Hidden Characters turned on, it will automatically turn on once I hit Mark or Mark All, and I can see the coding that's inserted inside these curly brackets. So let's just break this down quickly. First, there's a TA that indicates that this entry should be in the table of authorities. Next, there's a /L that precedes the long citation form. That's what's going to actually appear in the table of authorities. Then /S precedes the short citation form. And finally, /C represents the table of authorities category number. In this case, it is category 1 because cases is the first thing listed in the category drop-down box in the Mark Citation dialog box. I've scrolled down in the document so you can see the way that the Mark All feature worked in conjunction with the short citation information. So this Coles case right here, Word picked up because the information I put in the short citation form identically matched the information that I have in the citation, and that's the reason you leave the page number off after the at. If I had only clicked Mark, not Mark All, or if I had made a mistake in my short citation form or the way I cited the case later in the brief, Word would have only marked the original citation. Returning to where we left off, I'm going to click Next Citation, and Word searches for another term that it thinks might be a legal citation, picking up on an id. So we need to look up to see what the id refers to. We can see it's the Coles case that we already marked. With any id, there should already be a reference to the authority in the Mark Citation box. If there's not, I either missed marking a citation or I used an id when I should have listed the complete citation. Here there's no problem, so to ensure that the table of authorities includes this particular id with the Coles case I already marked, I need to click on the Coles short citation to associate these references with each other, and then I can go ahead and click Mark. You can see that Word inserted the coding for that particular id reference. Now, even if I had clicked Mark All, Word is only going to mark ids one citation at a time. I can go ahead and click on Next Citation. I get a second id, that's also to Coles, so I do the exact same thing. Now when I click on Next Citation, I get a brand new case. And I can mark that the same way that I marked the Coles case. I select the entire citation, I click into Selected Text, I edit the citation to get rid of the pinpoint, I set my category, and then I fix the short citation the way that I want it to be. I look everything over and then I click Mark All. Then I go ahead and click Next Citation. I find another case that I want and I'm going to handle it in the exact same way. After verifying everything is the way I want it to be, I click Mark All and then I click on Next Citation. Now here, Word's found something that I do not want to mark. This is not really an array from a case name, but the start of the words in religion. I've continued this process off camera, but I want to show you this example because the name of the case is separated from the rest of the citation by some text. So I can do the same process, I'm just going to need to edit accordingly. So I need to add in my comma, then delete out all of this text, and then delete the pinpoint as well. The rest of the process is the same, set the category, fix the short citation, and then click Mark All. I move to Next Citation. I want to point out that when you get a citation that you already have marked, you don't need to do anything. You can just go ahead and click Next Citation again. I've continued with the process and I've now reached the last citation in the arguments section, and Word is indicating I'm at the end of the document. Because I did not start at the top of the brief, but started with the argument section, I'm going to click yes, that I do want to continue searching from the beginning. I'm going to skip the V that Word finds on my cover page and go to the next citation. The process is the same for this code section. One thing I need to make sure that I do is change my category from cases to statutes, and then I can click Mark All and Next Citation. So I've now reached the statement of the issues section, and I'm seeing some cases cited that I already have included. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these the same way, but then I'm going to select the short citation that I already marked for this. So I've gone ahead and marked all of the cases listed here, and now I've reached this constitutional provision. This is something that I had not already marked, and that's because Word did not automatically find it. It does not have any of the search words like the V period or the section symbol that Word is looking for when it's trying to automatically mark citations. So I'm going to have to mark this manually, and it's the same way in References and then Mark Citation, and click into the box, set the category, set the short citation, and I can mark all. This is a good reminder that when we do the next citation feature, there might be other things that Word did not find. So I'm going to return to the beginning of my argument section, and I'm going to review it to see if there are other missing authorities. And when I do this review, I want to make sure hidden characters are on so I can easily see whether or not something was marked. In this paragraph by paragraph review, the first thing I want to point out is the U.S. Constitutional Amendment is now marked because I had just marked it manually and then clicked Mark All, so it did pick up on it from the Mark All. The other thing that Word didn't pick up is this article, so I'm going to do the same process here. And with this article, I should have it marked as other authorities, but let's say I make a mistake and mark it as cases. When I click on Mark, if I notice at that point, I just made a mistake, I can fix it right in the coding. What I need to know is what the category number should be. So category 1, that is our first drop down, that's cases. And we wanted it to be category 3, the third drop down. So if I fix it right here, at this point when I go to generate the table of authorities, it will be under the right category. However, often you don't notice these mistakes until after you generate your table of authorities. I've inserted some other mistakes in this brief, so in the next video when we actually insert the table of authorities, we can take a look at how to fix those after the fact. The last thing to note is that with the hidden text shown, you might notice that some of your pagination has changed, but this is not a worry. When you generate your table of authorities and your table of contents, you'll make sure hidden text is off, which will take the pagination back to normal. Thanks for watching, and reach out with any questions.